right? We have an assignment on this this data set. And the assignment is that we should pick out, identify the dimensions that we can find within this data set. You see, this data set we've been given is just the one table, right? But as time goes by, we'll see how to break this down when we start to look at how to model our data, because it's not good practice to just load this one data in and just work off it and that's it. That's the simplest thing to do, but that's not good practice for someone who's good at what they do. Okay, so you would treat this table itself as a fact table, the table as a whole as a fact table. And we'll treat this table as a fact table because this is where everything this business is about. This is where it's recorded. The last time we were practicing on this to understand data, we were using this in the process of the first part of your data analysis process, or the second step of it is that you have to understand the data that you're working with. Okay. And that is by picking through each and every column to just, try and put everything in one sentence where you can, and we did say that this looks like an IT customer service kind of data set that shows us when tickets are raised, this is where they are logged. So the IT department, their work is to sort everybody out that have issues with either their computer or getting some apps into their computer, or password issues, or faulty, anything that's got to do with IT. That's their job. So this is why this is your fact table, because it records the business, of that department. Okay. Now we want to start picking out the dimensions, and we said dimension tables. They are the descriptive part of the business. Okay. So without me saying too much, let's, if you're ready, let's unmute and talk us through what you think, which of these columns would suit what you can call dimension within here, within this data set.
Right. Can I start?
Please do.
Thank you very much. I think, well, the ones that I am very sure of, I'll start with those, and then I'll make comments on the ones that I'm not very sure of. One of the way I sort of tried to understand this thing was that I treat fact tables as nouns and then dimension tables as adjectives, essentially. And when you look at the table, I think apart from like the summary, apart from the summary column, like essentially everything else is really describing what is happening with the summary column. Say for instance, status, it was closed, right? So it's describing like what happened in the summary, in the summary column for in summary column 1, like with the ID. So it was closed, for instance. Who closed it? Resolution person in this case would be another dimension another dimension table. Resolution team in this case will also be another dimension table. Resolution date will also be another dimension table. Incident category will also be another dimension table. So like essentially the way I look at it, apart from the summary table, the summary column, essentially, I think everything else is really describing it. You can even make a case as to whether the summary column itself does not form part of dimension at some point. Because, I think it's also describing the ID, like what kind of this ID, say for instance, ID 24521. what's happening with it, like remove from current quarantine,
Yeah.
right? So it's describing that ID. So like, yeah, that's where it got a little complicated for me. But essentially, summary in this case, I'll treat as a fact table, and then the rest of like the tables, status, and then log on date, resolve service, and write up and resolution person, resolution team. All those things essentially will be dimension table because they're describing what's happening with the fact table. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Oh, wow. Thank you very much. That's really very wholesome, the way you've picked it. When I was looking at it myself, it was looking to me like almost everything here, almost all of the columns are looking like they are all dimensions. So you are right, you know, and that is because you see, majorly the most quantity, the most quantitative aspect of this type of data is the best you can do in terms of quantity is count. Okay, it's not like your sales data where you multiply quantity by cost or by price or profit. A lot of mathematics or arithmetic going on in that sort of data. But in this type of data, the best you can do is count. You know, maybe you want to count how many within this data set, how many of these summaries of the issues were actually closed, and how many were resolved, and how many were, you know, okay, that's the only two in that category. Okay. And how many issues here fall within, each of the categories under these these column headers. That's the best that you can do with it. Okay, maybe you could want to analyze a number of hours that the service were unavailable for, So maybe you want to see that how many hours is the organization losing? How many work hours is the organization losing as a result of faulty equipment or issues that are raised, for IT to solve? Because when you log your ticket that you need something, so whatever you need that thing for is hanging. You can't work with it or carry on unless it's resolved for you. So if it's taking like a day, 2 days, 1 hour, for it to be resolved, that is part of work hour that is lost, because you have not been provided with what you need, which is IT related. Okay. So yeah, they may want to analyze how many hours does the business lose as a result, of tickets that are raised, by people, by employees in the department, with a view of maybe, do we need to employ more customer service people? Do we need to train the ones we have now, give them some sort of trainings that would help them to resolve people's issues quicker than they are currently doing? If they find, after analyzing this, that actually workers lost is quite a lot. Okay, so that could be what you are using this sort of data set to achieve. Okay. You could also actually analyze the number of hours that is spent on tickets. Now, then that brings a question of, what's the difference between hours spent on tickets and number of hours services are unavailable for? Okay, so if that's not clear, we go back to the IT department to clarify what's the difference between these two quantities. Okay, so that you know how to actually use it to analyze their data. So you can use this in the right context, when you are building a report for them. Okay. And it is all done with a view of improving the efficiency, of that department, because the whole workforce, the whole organization rely very heavily on this part of the service, especially now that everything's gone digital. Okay. Then yeah, you can look at the number of overtime overtime hours that are spent, by the employees within this department, and see if it's in any way beneficial to the company or not. Okay, yes, incident category as well. The type of category you may want to see which of these, maybe for the week that we are in, which of these categories have we had more tickets raised in, and why? Okay, why are people raising a lot of tickets within this particular category? Is there anything we can do about that so that we reduce that in the coming weeks, and so on and so forth like that? Okay. Do I have anyone else who wants to tell us what they found within this assignment? I just want to be clear that everyone understands it. So let others unmute and tell us what they feel about the assignment, please. Am I still in? Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Sorry, I think
I thought
you've
I was
covered.
gone.
No. You can see. I think you've covered most of it. I'll just try how I did understand it, like what the dimensions do. Like they would describe what happened or who did what and where it happened.
Yeah.
So I think like what you've explained. So in this case, I'll say one of the dimensions I did find was like the infrastructure, like what happened, and then the resolution, who did what, and
Yeah.
which team did um um manage to sort the issue, as well as what happened, like the incident where it originated. Like
Yeah.
if we go on the incident category, like yeah, and then what was the incident? It was on the web or manual.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Thank
that's
you.
a little I did understand dimensions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. That's a
Thank
good
you.
one. Yes. Yes, that's what it is about. Okay. That's what it is about. While we can argue that maybe the count of, the count of all of these rows. So we've looked at what's the descriptive aspect of this data set, which is all the status, summary, arguably, resolved service, the dates that is logged on, the dates that it's resolved, resolution team, resolution person, all of that. All of those are the dimensions. Okay. But we can then argue that maybe the quantitative aspect of this would be, well, starting from counting, counting all of the issues that have been raised. So a count of these IDs, that is a quantitative aspect of it. We can also argue, not argue actually, we can also look at number of hours spent on tickets, number of users affected, number of hours services unavailable for, those are the quantitative aspects, and maybe no, not log week. So those are the quantitative aspects to this data. Okay. So if we were to draw a model, we'll keep the original data and then we'll bring all those dimensions, out to form our data model. And we'll see how that works, as we move on. Just very quickly, while we are on this particular data set, I had something else in mind before, but because we've sort of had a very good interaction with this, let's look at how we can, bring some questions out and quickly analyze this type of, this particular data set. Very simple analysis very quickly, okay? If we look at our our data analysis process. We said that, so yeah, we said the first part is what's the objective? Okay, what business question are we trying to answer? Okay, so for this data set that we want to quickly analyze, let's say that we just want to look at the number of hours spent. Let's say the manager wants to understand the number of hours the services are unavailable for, okay? The number of hours. We just want to understand how many hours we are losing, due to unresolved tickets, okay? How are we doing in terms of that? Let's quickly, so that's the objective, okay? Objective is we want to analyze and understand number of hours that services are unavailable for due to IT problems, because these are all IT problems, okay? So we understand the objective, because it's important that you understand the question before you start to try and answer it. And I'll say it again. We want to understand the number of hours that services are unavailable for due to IT problems, okay, within the organization and within the time, that we have, the time sets that we have here, okay? It's a 2022 and 2023 data set, okay? And we can go on to compare between the two years, okay? Which year had more hours of services being unavailable, to people, okay? Now, the second part, first part is we have understood the objective of the report. Objective is we want to understand how we are doing with time, The second part then is this step that says understanding the data. Okay, I'm so glad that we have spent quite a bit of time within this looking at this data set for, obviously, for other reasons, but in doing that, we have saved ourselves that hassle of trying to interact with it now. Now we understand that we are looking at a data set from an IT department where IT issues are logged. Okay, IT issues are logged. We see the status, if they are closed or still or resolved. Then again, one of the questions I would want to ask that IT department where this data set generated from is, okay, what's the difference between closed and resolved? Because that sounds to me like they are almost the same thing, okay? Does it mean that these ones are closed, but they were not resolved when they were closed? Okay, we understand perfectly what resolved means. Resolved is, okay, they were able to solve the problem. But when you say closed, how do you mean? What does that mean in your department? Okay, so but now the assumption we will go with is that closed would be something that was closed, but it wasn't resolved. They just had to close it for whatever reason they could not resolve it. Does that make sense to us, what I just said? Hello, do you want me to repeat that, or we are fine with what I just said?
Yes, I think it's clear to me.
Okay. Any other person? Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Any other person? Should I explain that again, or we're fine? I need response so that I'll understand that we're in class and we are following. I've heard from one person.
If you could just repeat, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I was saying that which part should I repeat so that I know where to start from?
I think just the last part that you were talking about.
Okay, I'll take what I just said again. So I'm saying we are about to analyze this data very quickly. We've said about what the objective is. Why do we want to analyze it? Why do we want the report? What's the problem that we are trying to solve? Okay, that we have to understand that that's the first part of your data analysis life cycle. Okay, understanding the objective, then understanding the data. And I said it's good that we've been toying with this data set for quite a bit, so we understand what it is about. Okay, but part of you understanding what it is about is going into, each of these columns to actually understand what has been written in, so that you can go back with more questions if you don't. And I said, for example, this status, under status, we have closed and we have resolved. And I'm sort of confused, okay? Because closed and resolved could be synonymous in my own view. So this is where we go back to the department and ask them, what's the difference between closed and resolved? By closing something, by putting a query as closed, does it mean that it wasn't resolved before they closed it? We perfectly understand resolved. Yeah, they resolved it and that was fine. Okay, but closed, what do they mean? Okay, so it's always best to go back to the owners of the data set and ask, so that you would use the data and create your report with the right understanding. Okay, so having said that, I'm saying we are moving forward with an assumption now. We are going to assume, okay, with an assumption that resolved means, yes, the issue was solved for them. Closed would mean, in this context now for us, closed would be that it wasn't resolved, but they had to close it in the end. Okay, so that we understand, what the difference between those two. That was what I said. Chigo, I hope you got that.
Yes, now I do. Thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, so we go in. Most of the columns may not be very necessary to the report that you want to build, so I won't overflow their own issues like this. 1-day SLA, 15-day SLA. It's not relevant to what I just said we are about to report on, so I won't really bother about it that much. The dates, this is dates logged on, the dates that they were logged on. Resolved service, Outlook, email. So again, it's good to understand, what do they mean by resolved service? Okay, we saw something resolved here. What does resolved service mean to the IT department? It would be nice to know. These were the errors, because sometimes they will tell you if you have a complaint, maybe you hit a brick wall while you were working, they'll ask for the error message that was displayed. Okay, so I'm assuming that this is what that is. Okay, and then this write-up from whoever closed it. Okay, resolution, So now this is apart from understanding the question, I'm also trying to look for any data quality issue that could be there. Okay, I see NA here. Okay, why do we have NA? Okay, why do we have 0 as well for resolution? Where this is all text. So why are we having 0? So if I filter now, okay, and I look through what this is. Okay, so application setup, access, urgent access allowed to an OAS system for supporting staff. Okay. Then I just look at it. It says resolved here. but there was no write-up. So whoever resolved this, they didn't put anything here, no comment. Okay. Now, this is where you want to decide. Do you want to leave that as that, or you want to change this hashtag NA to something like no comment recorded? Okay. I think something like no comment recorded is better within your data, your report than an NA. NA looks like an error. Okay, so where you could not retrieve whatever was meant to be written here. Okay, so no comment recorded is what I would change these to, just for data quality purpose. Okay, and these zeros as well, they don't make sense. Now I've got 0 where there should be a write-up. What does 0 mean? Okay. Okay. So, and then resolution, I'm looking at, it's good to look through, all of this in case you have repeated data, which we call duplicated data. Okay. For example, I could have, I would be able to easily see, can you see? I can easily see Helen Middleton, Helen Morris. Okay. If I've got another Helen here, maybe Helen Middleton appearing under here, then I would know that there could be a mistake. Helen Middleton, same spelling, should not be appearing twice while I'm looking in this window. So that tells me straight on that one of them has got an extra space somewhere that I need to deal with. Okay, because it's seeing the two names differently when they should be the same. Okay, it's easier to see that sort of error looking through this particular window than scrolling down like this to look at the whole data set. Okay, and the same goes for each of the other columns as well. Okay, now what we are doing now is no longer understanding data, although as you do this, you are understanding the data the more. As I'm looking through the data quality issue now, I'm now on this step, data cleaning and data transformation. Okay, because any issue I find within here, I'm dealing with it. For example, the hashtag NA. Okay, we found that under write-up, isn't it? Yes, we found it under write-up. So I could decide to pick this and do a control, I think it's control H to find. Okay. Yeah. So I picked this and I pressed control H, which is I want to find a value. There's a value that I want to find. Okay. And the value is that hashtag NA. Okay. So if I push hashtag NA, is it that NA? I think there's a slash somewhere. If I don't pick it right, it won't pick the right thing for me. Okay. So let's say I've gotten that right. So hashtag NA is saying, okay, find what? This is a find and replace function. So what do I want to replace it with? I want to replace it with no comment recorded. Okay, so let's replace all. We couldn't find, okay, that means I didn't put the right, that looks odd anyway. It doesn't look like what we saw before. So I'll close this and pick the right hashtag N/A. That's what I should have done. So there's a slash in the middle. So let's, okay, so I'm saying replace all, and it found 2. Say all done, we made 2 replacements. So I'll say okay to that. Okay, there's also a 0 that I want you to find. remember there's 0 within this column as well. I want that to be changed to no comment recorded as well. So I'll say replace all, and it found 2 again as well. Okay, so I can close this now. Okay, and if we go look into this window, so we don't have that hashtag n/a anymore. Okay, and that's 0 too. We don't have them anymore. We now have, if we go under n, yeah, no comment recorded. Here, we now have no comment recorded for those data quality not too good ones. Okay, and that's how you go through each one and spend time. This part of it is important, to spend time cleaning and understanding well. I think you could be spending 50% of your work time doing this, and it's worth it because you don't have to come back. It won't be that you've gotten to the end of the work, then you have to come back and when you get to the end of your report creation, you've discovered that, oh, there's a lot of mistakes. This thing is not giving me what it should be giving me. You have to come back and start doing a detective job of, looking through where could the mistake be, and that costs even more time. Okay, sometimes it's inevitable. You have to go through that route, but most times it's just good to deal with as much as possible, from here. Most of the time as well, where you would have data quality issue, it could be dates. You find some people recording data as 03 November, 03 NOV. So rather than record this as a proper in this proper date format, you have something like 03 NOV. And this is supposed to be your dates table, your date column. Okay. So if one of them is not appearing properly in a date format, it could throw up error for you. So you have to look through and be sure that they are all in the right data format. One thing I've not said about in this data quality issue within Excel and every other tool actually is the data type. Very important. I apologize that I didn't talk about that. Your data type, you see, under home, we have this box here. And if I look at it, if we, click on the drop down, you can see the different data types that there are. Okay, we have the one it's not specific, it's general. But we have number, we have currency, accounting. Those two are not too far off. Then we have the different types of short date and long date, however you want your date to appear. If you have time within your data sets, you have time, percentage as well. If it's decimal or fraction, okay, we have that. Scientific, you won't necessarily need this scientific, except you've got some scientific type of data. We have text as well, okay. And if we look for more number format, it's giving us, so there's more here, the different types of dates. It depends on the location as well. We are in the United Kingdom. If you were, working on American data set where month precedes day, for us, we write the date the day before the month. They write the month before the date. Okay, so it would be good for you to come, put the right country so that Excel can pick the right kind of date format properly for you, and if you need to customize your number in any way, there is a way to do them within here, as well. But generally for now, the ones that concern us more than anything would be the general number, currency, if you're dealing with money, date, very important, time, maybe not, percentage, very important, fraction would be your decimal, numbers. Okay, and that was just for us to see. Now, how do you use your data type? Now, it's always good to work within a table. Okay, yeah, it's that data set is already within a table format. That's good. Okay, then you come into each column, and check that Excel is picking the right data type, for your data. Okay, now IDs may be in like numbers, but because IDs are not numbers that you add together. Okay, for example, my customer number with Tesco, it could be 1004 whatever. Another person's customer number could be 20,000 and something. Now, those type of numbers that are IDs, because they are not numbers you add together, you can't add my ID to someone else's ID. You can only count IDs. Okay, so it wouldn't matter that we put this in number format, only because it's ID. The best you can do with ID, whether they are numbers or text, is you count them. So it's all right for us to leave this as general. Sometimes I actually leave it as text, just so that it doesn't go on mathematical rampage when I'm dealing with the number. Okay. I hope that makes sense to us.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. And then we move on to the next column. Let's look at what it's saying. Again, general, and, for text values generally, text, because we could decide to change this to text, but because we also have, like here, we've got all these symbols, forward slash and a dash there. Okay, I think it's best to leave it as general. I was going to change this to text, but let's leave it as general because it's got different special characters within it. Okay, so we are fine with that. Okay, and that's how you go through each of your columns to be sure, that it's picked well. Text are okay to leave as general, but just because we know these closed and resolved is what we have here, why not? Let's change it to text. It doesn't matter. Okay. I'm just gonna change it to text here and okay that. Okay. And if we check here now, it now has it as text. Okay. I won't spend too much time on this, only the very important ones. Dates. So date is very important to pick as date. So let's check if it's seeing the whole column as date. So that's good for us. Okay. And let's see numbers and other dates. Resolution date is seeing it as date, I believe. Yes. Okay. And just the numbers now. I'll leave the rest text columns because it doesn't matter. They don't really matter. Okay. Now I have, this is seen as number, it is good, okay? And it's seen as decimal number as well. If I wanted to change the number of decimal places here, okay? Look, if you look here, it says you can increase decimal or you can decrease decimal, these two, okay? So if I click that to the right more, you see, now I have one decimal place. If I click one more time, I have whole numbers. Okay, if I want to resolve back, come to the left, and I'll click that twice to have my initial number back. Okay, so and if we look at this, I believe it's seeing that as number 2. So we are fine. Okay, sometimes your number when you're loading is appearing as text. So it's good to come and check. And when numbers appear as text, if you, within your reporting, you are trying to add them up, it won't add because you can't add text. You can't add A plus B. It has to be see these as numbers before it can actually find the average or the mean, maximum number, or whatever calculation or aggregation, we call it aggregate, that it needs to do on there. So this is also seen as number. So that's fine. Log week. I mean, the week is even gone on to look for the week number from the date, which is E2. So E2 Yeah. So it's gone on to use this date to look for the number of week number that date falls in that year. And it's just using the Excel formula function called week num. Okay. And it's just use it for every other one there. Okay. Let's see, what is it saying this as general? It's saying that's general, and that's fine. We don't need the number anyway. Okay. Now, very quickly before our time runs out completely, straight to what we said we need to look at. We need to look at how we are doing in terms of time that people have to wait for, number of hours that service is unavailable for. Now I'm clicking within my data set, okay? And what I'll do, I'll go under insert, and I need pivot table, okay? Now when I picked pivot table, because the name of this table is table one, it's seeing it as table one, okay? So it's picked that as table one. It's picking every of the data set. Okay. Now it's asking me, choose where you want the pivot table to be placed. Do I want it to be placed within this existing worksheet or a new one? I normally like to work within a new one. So yes, a new one. Okay. It's asking for the location. If I had picked this one, yeah, I would need to go click on somewhere outside the table, to put the location. But it's all right with the new worksheet. I don't think we really need to put a location there. And it has grayed it out anyway. Okay. Now choose whether you want to analyze multiple tables. Now, had it been we have multiple tables that need to communicate with each other, we will say, add this to the data model. We'll click on this. But because we have just the one table at the moment, we won't be clicking on that. So I hope that we get to work on a data set that would, enable us to load different tables, and we'll see the use of this. Okay, so I'll go on to click OK. Says we couldn't get the data from table one. I'll try again. Okay. Why is it not getting it? Let's go again. Insert. Yeah. So we couldn't get the data from table one in workbook. Open this workbook in Excel and try. Okay. I'm not working in Excel. I'm working in CSV. And it's even a read-only. Okay. You know what? Let me stop sharing and quickly do that. I didn't realize I wasn't in Excel. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm just gonna pause this for a right. So I'm just gonna quickly share, and then we can carry on. Now, what I did was save that, and I opened a new Excel sheet, and I just went into file and opened it on the Excel sheet. So we are now working within Excel. Okay. Let's hide this. Okay, so this is still maintained as a table, which is good. Okay, so very quickly, let's do our analysis. I hope we'll have enough time. Okay, new worksheet quickly. Here we go. Okay, so it's added this sheet one, and we can just call that. I just double clicked on that, analysis. Okay, so that's our analysis table. Now, the pivot table is like a pocket, So we have the pivot table itself on the left, okay? And now it brings all of the columns, it loads them where we call, on the right-hand side, which we call the pivot table fields, all the fields. The column headers are also known as the fields, ID, summary, and all of them. If I scroll down, you see Now to make things easy for me to see here, I just come into the plug wheel, the settings, and I tell it to sort it from A to Z. That way I can easily, if I need client, I know it's the top part. If I need any other thing right up, it's below. So I'm not fumbling too much, around here. And then we have the different the quadrants, so to say, the four divisions now, where you can drag and drop these fields in. Okay. Now we have said that we need to see how we are doing in terms of number of hours, that has been used up for number of hours that services were unavailable for. Okay, so I'm going to drag that here. Now we see, if we look at this, it says filters. So if I need to filter anything within the pivot table, the field I need to use the filter for, I'll drag it here. If I need column, I'll drag it here. Those that will be under the rows, I'll drag them here. And those are numbers, values that can be added or aggregated, I'll drag those here. Okay. Now, I just want to see how we're doing in terms of number of hours that services were unavailable for. If I just click this, it brings it under rows, but that's not what I want. What I want is for it to be under values. Now it's saying count. Okay. Now it shouldn't be counting that for me. It should be adding or aggregating in whatever way. So when I see a number value being counted under values, instead of it being automatically summed up, that tells me that something has tampered with my data type. We were talking about data type just now, and I think it's because I moved this from the previous, I moved this from the previous worksheet into a new one. Okay, so I'm coming back here, and it's a number. So why is it not adding it up for me? Okay. Yeah, so this is numbers. Why are we not adding up? And then, okay, I didn't look at this well. Number of our services were unavailable for. Why have we got negative values here for number of hours that services were, unavailable for? And I've got blanks as well. This is what we say about data quality. If the data quality is messed up, the result would be, you see the results, in your analysis. Now I'm having problem with this field because there's a lot of problem within the data set itself. Okay, I only saw the ones. You see, the way I looked at some columns in there quite well to pick out data quality issues, I didn't do the same with this. And now that my report has a problem while I'm trying to resolve it, I see all these large negatives here, and I also see blanks. And that tells me that I need to resolve quite a few things here before I can proceed. Okay. Question is, why have I got negatives? Negatives in itself should actually work well, within maths. So why is that not working for me? Okay. So this is where you start to do your forward and backward journey, asking questions around and, looking into the data itself more in detail to see what the problem actually is. Okay. Right now, I can't see what the problem is because negative 47 added to negative 71 should still give me a value. Okay. So why is that not giving me the value that I'm expecting for it to give me? I think we'll start from there tomorrow. And these blanks as well. Do I need to change the blanks to 0? Okay. Now, okay, so this is where we're going to, I'm glad that this is happening because the work is never going to be always straightforward, you see. You would always have to deal with issues like this. So I'm glad the reality of it got thrown out or thrown up within the class today. Okay. I'm going to drop this on the data platform. I'll write what we are working on for those of us that want to have a go and try to resolve this. Okay, value field setting. For those that might want to. Okay, some. Oh, okay. We're actually okay. You see, because by default, normally when you drag a number value into here, it automatically just sums it up for you. It brings a sum. But this time it brought a count. And because it would only count numbers if it's not saying it as number. Okay. But now that I've gone in, let me undo that and do it again so that you'll see. Okay. So we say we are trying to see the number of unavailable hours, the number of hours that service were unavailable for. We want to analyze that for us. Now I dragged the number of hours service unavailable for into here, and it counted it, and because it did that from my own experience, it normally counts numbers when it's seeing it as text. We've gone into the data to look at it, and we can see that it's seeing it as number, okay? Then what I then did was come back here. You see, when you are working within values, okay, just indulge me 2 minutes more. When you're working within values, you can click on this drop down and you see all of these options here. It says move to report filter, move to row labels, move to column labels. All these ones are the places telling you to move it to. Remove the field. That's if I want to cancel the field. But I clicked on value field settings. Now in this value field settings, this is where you can see the different options of aggregations. So if you want to sum it up, okay, you can sum it up there and it brings the sum. Can you see that this also changed? Okay, so it's added all those numbers up for us. That's what I wanted. But if what you wanted is not sum, if what you want is count, which was what we had originally, okay, counts that up. It just counts the number of numbers that are there. Okay, go back into the value field setting. If you want the average, it would average it out for you. Okay, and that's the average of the number of hours that service was unavailable for. And if you want the maximum there, the maximum number was this. The highest number within that field was this. If you want the minimum is that. Okay, the smallest number is this negative here that it found. Okay, now that's how you look into different, okay, there are other statistical, products there, functions there that you could use. Products, we're not finding any products. Product is multiplication. We're not doing that right now. Okay, standard deviation, variation, count numbers, which is the same as the count that we had before. Okay, and that's it really for that. So I'll put that as okay. Okay, so if somebody was just asking you that within 2022 and 2023, how many hours was services unavailable for? There you have it. Okay, right there you have it. Okay, but if you were now told to look at that in terms of incident category now, that we want to see how this was the sum of number of hours services were unavailable for, how that, you know, panned out between the categories that we have, incident categories. All we have is just two, you see. So customer service incident tickets had that, and then we have incident. Okay, again, this is where I want to go back to the business to ask them, what's the difference between incident ticket and incident? Is it that somebody is just not recording, you know, these categories right? Because that doesn't seem right to me. But that's the way it has found it, you know, for incident category, you know. Or if it's incident source, you see, we get something a little better. Okay, we see that email has got that many, manual has got that many, okay? Services has got the most, okay? We may decide to sort these. Yeah, we may decide to sort this by sort these in a descending order. I'm trying to remember how to do that. So we want the highest to be on top. I can't remember how to do that. There should be somewhere that says sort in descending order. Okay, so I'll try and fish that out. I don't use Excel that much. You would already know by now. Okay, so yeah, we can sort these in descending order such that we have the highest number being on top, and you can easily see from a snapshot, okay, which is highest and which is lowest. And I see a data quality issue here. You see, there's just 4 in that category, but we've got an hashtag NA. Okay, what is that? What's that about? Okay, and we've got blanks. Okay, a lot of blanks, and there's quite a lot of hours that's under the blank. It will be good to know what this blank, you know, stands for. Okay, but in a snapshot, like I said before, we can easily see, okay, which of these incident sources we are spending more of our office time on, you know, and not really, and just wasting time because of too many IT issues. I've spent too much of our time. Apologies about that. Let's stop